Good evening. Within the last few minutes, the parties involved in the Northern Ireland peace talks have reached an agreement.
I think it's important for us to talk about the word bias before we begin with this topic. Bias makes us less impartial to certain agendas, and we all have them via our lived experiences. I have some in relation to the UK and Ireland. My uncle was a student in Trinity College Dublin on the 17th of May 1974, and at 5:30 p.m. he was leaving the campus on his motorbike, and then at 5:32 p.m. a car bomb planted by the paramilitary group, the Ulster Volunteer Force, was detonated at the intersection between Nassau Street and South Leinster Street. If my uncle had hung about for an extra 2 minutes, say, to talk to his girlfriend, that could have altered the course of my life in some shape or form. On the other side of the coin, my great uncle fought in the First World War for the British. He went blind due to exposure to mustard gas and lost a leg due to the infection from a wound he had sustained, and suffered from PTSD. So much so, on his wedding night he started strangling his wife in her sleep because he thought she was a German soldier. By fighting for the British like many men of his time, he did this to escape poverty, and also some semblance of naivety. But in the eyes of the Irish Free State, he was a pariah. Denied a pension and various other services, he hit the bottle, and hard, and it tore my family apart. So I've outlined my own personal biases that could affect this video. One final thing about myself. I have no lived experience of the Troubles. I am a Good Friday baby. I do not live in an area that was affected by the Troubles. Places like Belfast, London, Monaghan and Birmingham. So if I were to add my own spin on this, it would come across as pretentious and insensitive. Here are some books that I believe people should read if they want to become more informed about the Troubles. However, towards the back end of the video, I will analyse the discrimination McLean receives and why he is so divisive. Okay, I've indulged myself enough. Let's talk about James McLean. I think the best place to start with this story is on January 30th, 1972. On that day, in the neighbourhood of the Bogside, British soldiers shot and killed 13 unarmed protesters during a civil rights march. The funerals for the victims of Bloody Sunday, as it was known, were held at St Mary's Church in Creggan, Derry, or Londonderry. 16 years later, James Joseph McLean was born in Creggan. Age 17, he made his debut for Institute FC before deciding not to renew his contract with the club and signing for Derry City in the summer of 2008. McLean made 79 appearances for Derry and also scored 16 goals. This attracted attention from English clubs like Everton and Peterborough United, but he chose to move to Sunderland under Steve Bruce, but ultimately made his debut when Martin O'Neill was in charge. For more than a decade, McLean has made more than 490 appearances and scored 79 goals in professional football. It's incredible longevity. McLean retired from international football with 103 caps and 11 goals. Outstanding. However, the same love was not given to him whilst playing in England. For those uninitiated, the 11th of November is the month of remembrance in the UK, a month to remember all armed forces members who have died. The symbol of the day is the poppy. This is stitched into football jerseys in or around the 11th of November. You see, McLean refuses to wear the poppy as he believes that he would offend people from his community in Derry. The first time he did this was in 2011, and since that day he's had a target on his back. Every time you watch McLean in the UK, he faces a tsunami of abuse, chants about the Pope, the IRA, etc. Yes, if you are Irish, you probably hate these chants, but if you're not okay with it, why are you okay with this? Maybe it's just the name of the game and I'm overthinking it. Yet when it comes to McLean, people who hate him take it way too far. In this piece by The Athletic, the article goes into detail about how McLean received messages which included images of 5.56mm bullets, and the sender saying that McLean deserves to be shot dead and his body dragged past the cenotaph. McLean is an angel himself, case in point. This hate for McLean stems from the poppy being sacrosanct in the UK. What it represents, its hyper-visibility in media, family ties with the armed forces and the conflict between the Provisional IRA and the British Army. No wonder individuals would be upset if McLean turned his back to the English national anthem, but McLean comes from one of the most marginalised and hostile places on the island of Ireland caused by the colonisation of the country by the English, so it makes sense why he's against wearing the poppy. It is not fun to be McLean in the UK, and that's putting it very, very lightly. This may seem quite trite to conclude this video on this point, but it could ultimately just come down to the fact that we're all products of our environment. If you grew up in a home or community with a strong military background, you're okay with this, but not this. If you grew up in a home or a neighbourhood with nationalistic belief, this is okay. But not this. I also do think hate is taught, so that's something also to consider. Ultimately, I do think it is sad that we as football fans are often engrossed by the whole poppy topic that surrounds him, and we cannot move past that and acknowledge that James McLean is an outstanding footballer who has had an incredible career.